same. We talk about this same made this staple. She's the only black female artist from the US and in the UK that has had a number one Christian and gospel album on the official UK charts. One True Vine. Do you know that? She's the only one. She's the only one. It came out in 2013, a few years in the establishment of the gospel label or gospel chart over here officially. And she had a number one right around the same time as Amy Grant. She and Amy Grant is the first of the two American females to have number ones in the UK on that official chart.
Sure. Affinity Xtra, be extra.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and do not necessarily represent the views of Affinity Xtra.
Yeah, my people, I thought I'd play a bit of that, man, up because you know what, so you gotta play a little bit of gospel. You had the traditional sounds, and then I'm gonna bring in Master Kevin. I'm gonna have a bit of analysis of a track. Kevin, can you hear me? Let me make sure I can hear you, brother. You give me a shout right now.
I can hear you.
Okay, let's turn up Kevin. Oh, you're not too loud today, bro. Let's make sure. Right, cool. Right. Okay, yeah, bro, you can call through, but you're not as loud as you usually are.
Okay.
Let me just...
Can you hear me?
Okay, that's a bit better. Did you turn something up there, bro?
Yeah, turn it off.
Okay, is it on max now?
Yeah, I'm at max, yeah.
Yeah, mate, that's better.
Yeah, I'm at max. I didn't want it to disturb in the neighborhood because it gets a bit loud.
Okay, no ways, my brother. Listen, bro, You know, when you're listening to that kind of like vibe, you know, a bit of Sunday service choir, you know, obviously obviously Kanye West is obviously inspired the coming together of the choir you got in the background. But what I love, guys, you know, for black people, you know, we're forgetting what you would call the signature sounds of our culture, yeah, and it's not to say that everybody else does it wrong. It's just that makes us different. You know what I'm saying? And it's just the fact the way we clap. Just that fundamental. I think anywhere we are around the world, we just clap different to everybody else, bro, man. You say, and somebody explain.
A funky clap. It's a funky clap.
It's a clap. Funky, even the slightly off.
It's almost a percussion beat.
Yeah. We're happy to do like even if it's like a straightforward. You see what I'm saying? We just delay. We just feel our way and just do that little delay
because we understand space. There's a thing called space.
Space. Yeah.
You know, to get the space, where to breathe and then come back in. Space, measure it. The tempo, space.
Whoa. And the thing is, the clapping is a sound. You know what I'm saying? It's a part of a musical. It's a part of the rhythm. Yeah. And let's not forget that, people. You know what I'm saying? You know, when we're in church and we forget the claps and you know, there's times where you got evening service, Kevin, yeah? And when the service sweet and everyone wants to carry on and everyone's clapping, man. And everyone's doing the claps, man, and everyone's in the hands up in the air. A clap is a fundamental part of who we are and how we clap. It might sound really simple, but it's a key thing. And as Kevin, you know what I'm saying, project ministry called Signature, it focuses on signature sounds. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's a signature sound which has transcended, I believe, definitely the Afro-slave, the African Americans, the Afro-Caribbeans. And it's funny, Kevin, today I was watching a video that was talking about, you know, sad to hear about the Queen, and they was talking about, you know, wrong time to bring up about reparations and the Queen because, you know...
It doesn't actually make sense. Because what's the point?
You know what I'm saying?
What's the point? We got to respect...
let due process...
Let the iconic, because... We have to remember whatever side of the fence we are concerning the royals. This is the first person, the first iconic individual that has not had a personal scandal.
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, she's governed. We do not know what her opinion is on anything, which is unusual. Two things. And the fact is that she actually know more personal secret about all the political leaders, both black and white, around the world than anybody else.
Yeah.
So she's going to her grave. She's gone to her grave with secrets.
And she ain't spreading this. She ain't spreading them secrets around the place, bro. You know what I'm saying? And but the thing is, bro, let her rest now, man. All the best for us. You know, condolences to the family. Whatever how I feel about the worlds, whatever. But the reality shows, let them rest. But I think that in this time, when it comes to there's a guy making a comment about it, and he says that as African Americans, they feel like they're different to the rest of us Afro-Caribbeans, yeah? But you have to realize, dude, like, you was on the same ship, but you just come off later. You know what I'm saying? We're all coming from the same source, which is Africa. You know what I'm saying? And the reality show is that, they drop them off in Barbados, they work their way around, and they drop off to you later. You know what I'm saying? So don't think yourself something special. And the reality show is that basically, we just have to respect people's opinions, respect people's angles, and agree to disagree. You know what I'm saying? So it's just interesting how, sometimes when you hear the American sound, and we are different to Americans, and I think that as Caribbeans, we have followed America a bit too much when it came to musicality, but that may be from the sources of our churches, and we probably never got it together properly in the Caribbean to really have great, mighty, theological strongholds within the Caribbean because of the way the system's set up there. But the reality show is that basically that for me, this is why we now need to reprogram ourselves, to recognize the singleness of us black people. I run a black team, bro, and there's Africans, there's Afro-Caribbeans in the team, there's even a couple white people in the team as well. But we what I'm trying to do is make people realize that we're all culturally different, but we're the same people, and we need to respect each other and stand up for each other. And hence why, guys, after that intro, I want to make sure that we know that the reason why we're doing this Black History Music project, and I continue to emphasize, because technically a Christian station that does searches and look at the fundamentals of black music, especially in the success part of the USA, where black men have gone through the strife to set up amazing businesses. Yeah, Kevin, the conversation that we had about Chicago, I'm going around celebrating. I was talking to some other black men about VJ Records, and they never even had a clue that we were part. I would say black people were the ones who opened the door for the Beatles in America. You know what I'm saying? They're the one who took the risk on them, effectively. Obviously, we never maximized it due to certain circumstances afterwards. But the reality of the situation is that let's be real, we have been part of great parts of history. So we're here to celebrate that, we're here to emphasize that. And one thing I would say in the UK gospel music industry, we need to look at these successful models, because they're successful because they've gone through 2-3 generations now. And on third generations, we talked about, forgive me, Kevin. We looked at, is it Memphis? Memphis, where you got third generation looking after the studio.
Third generation looking at. Matter of fact, I've discovered that in Memphis, there's an independent black label that's been around, a soul label that's been around since the 90s.
Wow.
Privately held.
Yeah.
I have to spell it out to you because I don't want to actually say it and pronounce it incorrectly. It's ECKO.
Okay, cool. Okay, Eco. Yeah, something like yeah, something like that. So yeah.
Eco, it depends on how you. But Eco Records, that was set up in the 1990s and operating as an independent soul label, blues and soul. Yeah.
Brilliant. No, absolutely fantastic. And
that's a black business record.
Brilliant. And it's, we got to celebrate this, guys. You know, and that's what we're trying to do in the station. We're celebrating Black success, and whatsoever. And so in the last show now, believe it or not, guys, I never took too much notes in the last show. I need to take notes now because we haven't put it on YouTube yet. That's my fault. It's been a busy week, guys. I got some crazy. I got some recordings. The video's up, you know. I just haven't done the thumbnail, so I'll get the thumbnails done anyway. So yeah, but that was the part one of Chicago Ladies, and Kevin, who were some of the ladies that we highlighted in the last show?
Well, I need to go back in my notes because there was 1 second.
Forgive me, Kevin. Forgive me. So I'm just gonna give a bit of freshers of it.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, Fontella Bass, Betty Everett, Etta James, and Sugar Pie, Di Santo, and of course, who else we put into the mix? There was some other. Okay, and we talked a lot, of course, about Mavis Staple and her styling during the 50s that helped to usher in soul music, really, you know, as singing. And we think that it was influential for the future Rita Franklin and so on. There's that singing.
Well, listen, man, the staples, like the staple singers now, guys. I'll be honest. I put my hands up in the air. I never heard of them until a couple of years ago. Yeah. Everyone will laugh. Go, you ain't got a clue. But obviously, I know a couple of their songs through people singing them later. The Winans did their song and whatever they're still. Yeah, I'll take you there. And I never really knew much about them still. But then when you look into the story and what the beauty of it, and I want to say to people who are not Christians and who feel that, you know, I was talking to a young person the other day feeling that with gospel music, she doesn't want, she's in church, she sings all the songs, she leads worship, but she doesn't want to be a gospel artist because she feels like you can't be nothing being a gospel singer. And I think for me, this is where the separation of secular and gospel in the UK is just too distant. We forgot where we come from. We have so many amazing people that are supporting the system of non-Christian music in black music. We need to stop being ashamed of who we are and what we are and what's got us there. You know what I'm saying? I see it too often by our musicians. Our great, amazing musicians out there, our great, amazing singers out there. Do you really stand up and say, yo, I'm from Church of God and I'm going to be doing worship tomorrow and I'm doing this, what I'm doing now. Now, whether I agree or disagree with what you're doing right now, on top of who you're singing with, that's neither here or there. But just know who you are and what you are, and the lack of identity with the church. Due to church hurts and many things. You know what I'm saying? It means that not like the Americans, Kevin has highlighted the fact that set up record companies like VJ, like Chess Records, they have gospel segments for gospel people. They feel no way of calling the gospel boys in. They go, listen, I need some gospel choirs, I need some vocals in there. So yeah, I could call the local choir in to come and do this session. We seem to have a fear of doing that. We're just too high and low. And because of that separation, we divided, and they're divided. We won't go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And the reality show is growing up. I heard that secular music artists in America, Jodeci, Blackstreet, even R. Kelly, they had gospel music out there. No matter how sinful they're going on, they had gospel. They had to do a gospel track for mama and papa, and they had to say, "I thank God." But over here, you know, we get shocked because Stormy does one little gospel track and we all get gassed. But the reality show is that's a staple thing in America. Full stop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, especially through the 90s and through and through the noughties. You know what I'm saying? That was a staple. And even to this day, they'll give honor to God. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, whether you're listening in and going, why these people, they forget Jesus, you know. We're not forgetting Jesus. We just understand that basically the champions for us in gospel music are the ones that we've built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. The thing about it is it's quite interesting. We talk about this same Mavis Staple. She's the only black female artist from the US and in the UK that has had a #1 Christian and gospel album on the official UK charts. One True Vine. Do you know that? She's the only one. She's the only one. It came out in 2013, a few years in the establishment of the gospel label or gospel chart over here officially. And she had a number one right around the same time as Amy Grant. She and Amy Grant is the first of the two American females to have number ones in the UK on that official chart. Of course, Lorraine Dagel, she's had two albums.
Lauren Daigle, that basically the white American artist that does the black music. Yeah, that guy. That woman. Cool. Yeah.
She's selling. I mean, this sister
Adele.
Lorraine is selling some serious numbers in the US.
Oh, bro, like she's
numbers.
like, for me, I'm not saying she's Adele sounding, but she's basically Adele, sing on top of black music, she's singing with soul, and it's like they got the perfect, you know what I mean, sorry Christian music labels, but you got your perfect thing. You got somebody who's not black singing soulful music that everybody wants to listen to, and then you just gone, and she's absolutely gone clear on it, and it just shows that why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't you support us do that? Why couldn't you invest in us? But anyway, that's a whole other subject.
That is another discussion. Yes, that is another
systemic racism in Christian music. But anyway, still, let's get us off of trouble. But listen, so because again, when we go back to Chicago, let's all celebrate Chicago now. Sorry, guys, that was a nice like a warm up for the show to show you that these are real conversations that we're pricking what you're thinking, whether you like it or not. But Chicago, bro, Chicago seems to be an inspirational area. Now, Chicago was amazing for me for Chicago Bulls. I did not know Chicago was anything interesting until I realized my friend explained to me about Kanye West being from Chicago. And then next thing you know, when he did that track Goddies, then I got interested. Go, hold on a second. That means, he grew up listening to James Cleveland. And then all of a sudden, we started breaking into Curtis Mayfield. Yo, bro, when I'm going out there, man, I'm talking about Mr. Curtis Mayfield like he is the foundational member of getting us to create soundtracks. That's how big this guy is. Curtis Mayfield was who's he? Again, you know what I'm saying? Doing one or two, he did one album, that was good. But he was doing soundtracks, man. Understand the industry before we go into it. Yeah. Curtis understood the industry. He went into it, done his album, and then he started to be doing soundtracks for movies. Mm-hmm. Listen, before Star Wars. Come on. Succession. So he's nice. He's absolutely. He's sound. There was that time. I remember. There's a time when I was younger and I used to watch all the American programs, and you can almost say Curtis Mayfield set a fundamental. You know when you're watching Chips. Remember Chips back in the day? Yeah, Chips. Yeah, man. And they're chasing. The cops are chasing. All you hear is wom, and you hear this. You're thinking, why are they licking a groove like this in the middle of the whole series, you know, bro? When they're just chasing, and you're thinking, this is us. What's our music doing in this? Inspired by Curtis Mayfield, guys. You know what I'm saying? So, bro, are we going back into women again? This when it comes to Chicago, we got more women.
Well, what you have to understand is that Chicago is the only city in the union that produced so many hits in the first say 10 years or a bit
from the 50s. Basically 50s in the 50s where the other guys more lit the 60s and the 70s of the foundation of Chicago. They're the more early.
You have to understand is that Chess in particular, Leonard Chess, signed up quite a few female solo artists. Some of them had long careers and some didn't. Family Rays and so on, but a few are still around recording. You know, there's a few.
Okay.
I'll mention later, but anyhow, you had a Joan Jarrett, Garrett, who did a track By My Side in 1966. She actually got a contract with. She's a soprano by sound. She had a contract with Chess because she won a competition at the Royal Theatre in Chicago. You know, just like what we have with X Factors, in around the cities like Detroit, Philly, and so on, they had competitions where singers win and they give them a contract. The same time with Barbara Mason and several others. Barbara Mason is from Philly. With they won contracts. A lot of them won contracts before they became an artist. Oh, they just found it. Then the record label was part of them winning the competition was to be awarded a contract. So Joanne Jarrett was recorded a contract and then she recorded one track. I don't know why she recorded just one track, but it was in 1996. 1996, she recorded one track, and it was Stay By My Side. Very good track, right? Very good. And this is what is amazing. And then listen to this. Right around the same time, you have another track by Barbara Carr, C-A-R-R, Barbara Carr, who Don't Knock Love, Don't Talk. So there was two singles. These are classic singles just showing the body of recording by female artists from Chicago. That's two at the same time in 1996. Yeah? And then the year before, listen to this, the year before, there was another single came out by Jackie Ross called Selfish. You know? So in 1965, I just want to make sure it came off the Full Bloom album, 1964. Right.
So the productions evolving now in this period. So you got the 50s had a sound. So you're having the 60s because the access to bigger facilities, access and the people because they're gonna think about it, in the 50s we never had access to all the Royal Albert halls because man, we just reaching, and I keep on saying to guys, when I say we as black people, they're moving up from the warm south up to the north, and they're only just reaching after the war in the 50s, the same way our Caribbean people reached the UK in the 55s. And that's just another point, Kevin. People always say that the Americans have had more time to do their music, but if you really think about it, if you look at a lot of their companies and stuff like that, were built after the Great Migration. Yeah, into the big cities.
Yes.
Really and truly, their Great Migration was the same period, just about about 5 years before the Windrush. Really and truly. Because America's got states are massive. So for me, really and truly, when we keep on saying, "Oh, they got an advantage because they've been there for 200 years." No, not really, because a lot of them are moved into an area. You know what I'm saying? And this is why it's important to know history, because you got to know that they were they weren't settled in that area generation after generation. They moved in, and then they did business.
Right, because remember, by the 1950s, there was about 800,000 blacks in Chicago, and during the 1950s, the late 40s, 1950s, and this is most of them weren't originally born in Chicago. They migrated to Chicago.
Come on.
So you find out that though Sam Cooke and Lou Rawls is born in Chicago, right, and so forth, their parents is from out of Chicago.
Come on, yeah. A bit like yourself. You know what I'm saying? Our parents are born in Jamaica. But we born here, so so that really hits hard on us as British-born Jamaicans, and British-born West Indians. What have we done? Because they've had to go through the same process as us, going into another town, I'm saying, ran by the Irish, ran by the Scottish, ran by because the guys are going into Philly, they're going to a city ran by the Irish. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. This is a very technical situation because when they come
so we're opening up a can of worms. Sorry, guys.
They're coming into work in the shipyards, right? In the shipyards, in the steel plants, in Detroit, they come to work in the auto
industry,
facilities, and the supporting industries and so forth. So yes. But the interesting thing that is coming out of that, a lot of the youngsters who eventually born in Chicago, they actually were beginning to become educated at the university and getting degrees in music and so forth. Just like our people, eventually they're getting qualifications. So you're developing a new class of potential business entrepreneurs, because the people who set up chess or DJ record and chess record, chess record owners were from Warsaw. They came out during after the war. They're from Poland, The original chess brothers who developed chess record was from Warsaw in Poland.
Oh, is it considered the Jewish?
Yeah, they're Jewish.
Yeah.
And also, Muddy Waters and them is from down south, meeting these brothers, and they both love each other. And then chess.
Was it interesting time, that period there where black and Jews were facing the same struggle?
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, because I think don't get, everyone goes on like, you know what goes on like now, and don't get it twisted, but the white Christians are going like say they weren't anti-Semitic. They're like this. Rubbish, bro. But they were ready. KKK were burning Jews as well as black people.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So don't get it twisted, man.
That's why one of the legendary Clarence Evans was trained by a Jewish artist manager. He taught him how to manage artists and business. My brother loved him and taught him how to manage, because remember, this guy was managing Deon Washington and all these big, and Louis Armstrong and all these, and Duke Ellington. He was managing these major black artists and white artists as well. He was connected to Sinatra and so forth, and he taught this guy the ropes of business. That's why you find out that when you read the history of lots of the black experience and so forth, there's Jewish brothers and sisters involved in it. Down to a matter of fact, the accountants for Motown Records were Jewish brothers. I think there's a bit of, but the thing is, it's interesting how you talk about the Jews though, because I feel that black people seem to be, when I say black people, there's a number of people in the industry that seem to be vexed that Jews have made a lot of money from our music over the years. But the reality show is that they are coming from they just fitting into areas where we weren't skilled in and wasn't focused on, because let's be real, we're so great at building creatives, and without the Jewish guys in the industry, we may not have built so quickly and so big. You know what I'm saying? Because the reality show is that we built, and including the Jews, you know what I'm saying, we built amazing companies delivering to the world, and it may have needed that Jew to walk into certain rooms and deal with the case, and that's the reality of life. But the reality show is he was facing the same anti-Semitic, same racism, but if I'm anti-Semitic, we call it in a pretty word, anti-Semitic, but racism. But basically, there's facing anti-Semitism big time. You know what I'm saying? Because in America, there were a lot of anti-Semitics from even Henry Ford himself was writing books about anti-Semitism. He had a lot of workers, so you don't think that these guys are innocent in that area. But as Kevin says, I know we're touching a lot about history, so we talk about the Bible in context. So you have to bring the context of the surrounding area and the struggle of black music and look at why they ended up there and who's out there, because we always make big statements about Americans, about they're lucky because they've been there for 200-300 years. I've heard it, even with the Jeremiah boy, bro, we listen to Jeremiah and you hear a lot of people talk about, the Americans have been there for 200-300 years, the Juliets of the world, and we talk about these conversations. But when you look at history from a contextual, when you look at the world wars, when you look at the migrations of black people, you're actually chatting rubbish. You know what I'm saying? Not because you're negatively, it's because of lack of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Because history has been given to us a wrong way, we don't realize that the Americans are the same as us. They are Chicago born, but from the southern, but from cotton. What do they call them? Cotton pickers. From cotton pickers. Yeah. From plantation workers in the south. You know what I'm saying? Who left their families to go north. Yeah.
So they traveled as long as, as far as England from Jamaica is as far as some of them have traveled to the north, you know what I'm saying? And we're being away from their family and not communicating, you know what I'm saying? So that's what they face. So let's respect the grind here. You know what I'm saying? So, Kevin, let's look at some more ladies. Sorry, we digressed there, but we brought a beautiful context to the struggle.
Yeah, it's not, you're not far off, because when we look at Chicago Symphony Orchestra, a lot of the members of the symphony orchestra were of Jewish descent. They were from Warsaw. Some of them were Italian Jews and so forth and so on. And this is just it makes me laugh when once you understand your history and all the struggles.
Yeah, man.
You're not subject to. You're not ignorant as such. You understand.
Yeah.
I mean, the late Teddy Prendergast's lawyer were Jews.
Okay. Yeah, man.
Luther Vandross, entertainment managers were Jews.
Wow.
At one time, there's the same Jewish company, same Jewish manager, and also Lisa Fisher and so forth. So they're ingrained into the industry. And Clive Davis is Jew as well.
Okay, guys.
Jerry Wagster, who brought Aretha Franklin to prominence, Jewish, New York Jew. Okay, but we could go on forever. I mean, I mean, some of the people who work in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra string section that work at Motown, Jewish brothers and sisters.
Crazy.
The same thing in Chicago, Jewish brothers and sisters. Okay. But
yeah, man. No, blue. That's beautiful. Come on, So guys, we've properly digressed this episode, but we're gonna get to Chicago women's. But we brought beautiful context to Chicago. Yeah.
We gotta put Chicago in this contextual way. Chicago created black entrepreneurs because of the disposal income they were getting from the shipyards, from the building industry, from the various different manufacturing facilities. Chicago is a serious industrialized area.
Yeah. So the black people use the money that they made, and then didn't do what Christ said not to do with your talents, with your money. Yes. So they didn't stick it underneath the pillar. You know what I'm saying? They multiplied it. And then cultivated
they trained themselves.
Yeah.
You had the James Max. Yeah. The James Max at the junior college, who taught the Washingtons, the Edisons and so forth, all these different people, classical skills in how to read charts, how to do arrangements.
Come on now.
So they moved from head knowledge to actually trained, because most of Chicago musicians, a lot of them were trained musicians. They went to college. Some of them had master's degree. So some of them taught in academia as well as in the studio.
That's beautiful.
And we need to remember as well, a lot of these recording that we so much appreciated, they were actually recorded by guys like Stu Black and there's several, Dave Purple. These are major white recording engineers that make a livelihood working for black artists and producers and arrangers and so on. They made a living, and that's how Bruce Swedien was so impacting to Michael Jackson, because he worked with the Muddy Waters, the Duke Ellingtons, in Chicago. Barbara Carr, who eventually became successful in later years.
Yeah, man.
Like for instance, I don't know what time we have, but let's look at this.
Go on.
Mahala Shaw.
Okay, Mahala Shaw, not Jackson. The Mahala Jackson.
She recorded Marlena, her name. Sorry, I'll get it right. Marlena Shaw. Recorded 2 outstanding Chicago albums. The first one was Out of Different Bags, 1968. But the one that was arranged, of course, and produced by the late Richard Evans, who himself was classically trained at chess, but became a lecturer at Berkeley College in composition. This is a serious brother. These people are serious. Now, the album that is fascinating as well is the one that called Spice of Life by the same lady in 1969 that produced California Soul. Now, this is the interesting about California Soul. It was released originally in 1969, bro. Listen to this. And in 2004, when it was released again, it went silver, and then it went gold in 2022. The 2nd of September. This is recently. 2nd of September, 2022, it went gold certified. This year, gold certified, selling over 400,000 copies.
Jeez.
In the UK. If you listen to Californian Soul, brother, it's revolutionary. When you listen to it, it's almost and it features 2 master classical arrangers and producers, Stepney Charles.
We missed the trick a bit with the training. I think we there was a culture. I don't know if it's a Pentecostal culture where in the UK, not in America, where we just felt like we can just turn up and play and be real. We really hid away from being a technocrat or being technically not knowledge classically about music on top of our natural skills. I think we just was so scared of I don't know if we were so scared. We were just too lazy.
Yes, it could be lack of discipline and fearful, because remember, and not confident enough. Because I don't know if you remember in the conversation we had with the rock school several weeks ago, where Burton, and what's his name, Burton, the classically trained,
Ken Burton.
Ken Burton was saying that one thing that the classical community is frustrated with us a lot, that a lady would come in and they're good vocalists, but they can't read the notes that is required. So they can't read the notes. They can actually sing, so that they lay the production. So he said that that's why it is important in emphasizing for them to learn to read notes and so forth, because sometimes they can get big jobs to do with scores, major scores and so forth. Right? So you get a job because you can actually read music. Nothing wrong with that, but it's very important.
Yep. That's what holds us back.
If you can read the music, that means you can actually teach it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, bro. Big.
Okay, right. So this is what many of our sisters in the end in Chicago and so forth had advantage over us, because a lot of them were trained to actually learn about music and understand it, the brilliance of it.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So when you look at, let's go back during the same year, that 1969, beg your pardon, when the Spice of Life came out, featuring California Soul and California Soul in particular, which was a monster hit. Same period, Joanne Gareth came out with an album called Just a Taste, 1969. That is another interesting album. It wasn't a big seller compared to The Spice of Life, but it had the same musicians, some same studio musicians working on the album.
Yeah, man.
Listen, she did an interpretation of Walk On By. You remember Walk On By on Isaac Hayes' album?
Okay, yeah.
She did an interpretation of that, which was pretty good.
Right. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm doing my research on here. So what's it called? Spice of Life.
Well, yeah. Spice of Life is the one to do with Marlena Shaw.
Yeah, Marlena Shaw. Yeah.
That was her second album, 1969, that she did at Chess, where you have Charles Stepney and Richard Evans in the production chair, and he had some of the best, and it features some of the best Chicago musicians and in terms of the classical community on it. Yeah.
The Spice of Life. Right. Yeah. Because Marlon Short, Spice of Life. Marlon Short album. Yeah, got it right here. So what it is, there was Spice of Life. Yeah, and when you put Spice of Life, there's a band Manhattan something. They did something in the 80s on that. So there's a few reiterations of that. But yeah. You got Spice of. Yeah, I see it here now, bro. I see it here. Bring it up. Spice of Life, the album by Marlena Shaw.
Yeah,
Never heard of it before.
That is
okay.
Yeah, those albums are classical gems, really, because people in the UK. This is interesting. This is what I want to tell you. This is interesting. In the UK, Maela Shaw and Etta James are selling big numbers even now. People are buying their stuff and having new certification because they're catching on. They're catching on because they hear statements from Adele talking about these women who influenced them.
And when it goes back, and you have to realize this is what I'm saying, bro. This is what I'm
saying.
Yeah, I'm saying. And this is what happens when you, as a non, when you're being inspired by somebody, especially church artists. I know that secular artists will feel no way and says, I'm inspired by Clark Sisters, and say it straight. And then when people go right back, I mean, it helps the people that's inspired you out big time, which was me and that one. But at the same time, that's absolutely fantastic, bro. And this is where, salute to Adele, talking the truth and saying who she's inspired by. Because the thing is, we'll look at the damage that's been caused because the truth behind Elvis Presley. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right.
And not telling the truth.
Thing too, Lorraine Keto, right? Lorraine Keto. Yeah, she worked on Adele's very first album, which is entitled 19. She worked on that first album with Adele, yeah. Yes, her sister told me. This is the thing that why we need to really document history, because we need to understand that
we've had a part to play. Yeah.
When it comes to music in the UK, yes, if we put all these people like Lawrence Johnson and the late Joey Grant under microscope, every one of them worked on major best-selling projects, right? And some of them, the funny thing, Lorraine Cato was telling me that her sister has worked on so many platinum and gold and so on albums, so many projects where she's going to get, she can get disc 4 that would actually fill up the studio where you're in.
Yeah.
That's how serious. Okay, I have to say this, that when it comes to Chicago, I think a big Chicago woman. We're talking about all these ladies that we talked to about so far in this section is recorded at Chess, right? Initially.
Okay,
Jackie Ross, Barbara Carr, Marlena Shaw, yes. And of course Joanne Jarrett. Okay. But this is where it gets interesting in 68. But we don't forget that. A lady who was a receptionist at a Brunswick label. Brunswick label was the black recording division that was set up in Chicago. They had one in New York, but they set this one up in Chicago where Jackie Wilson and so forth recorded. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And the Shylights and so on.
Yeah.
But there was one hit that came out that was very interesting by a female by the name of Barbara Acklin. Acklin. Barbara Acklin. Barbara Acklin was a successful, although she was a receptionist, but she was a successful songwriter and also brilliant background vocalist.
Okay, yeah.
And have you seen her by the Shylights? She co-wrote that.
Okay.
Soulful Struts, which was an instrumental #1 hit, was a big hit. She wrote that. This is serious, sister. And then she wrote this one, Love Makes a Woman, 1968. R&B #3, and it was a million seller, bro.
Yeah, yo.
It was a million seller. If you ever listen, Love Makes a Woman, boy, it's Chicago, Brunswick studio musicians at their best.
Crazy.
And this is when this is when that James Max, who taught these, but the sad thing about James Max, there is not any, I could not find any videos on the internet that show him being interviewed, so I could see him in his late. I only have one recording of him where he's talking about how the impact. The guy is so impacting that Jay-Z and Kanye West and all of them uses sampling. The brother is serious. The brother is another
good.
And he's from academia, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he actually taught about maybe 5 or 6 of the top producers and arrangers and musicians from Chicago. He actually taught them.
Wow.
Trained them, and then he did arrangements and so on for them. Yeah,
that's crazy. That's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
Just to show you, and I mean, let's talk about Barbara Acklin. There's another one, Minnie Riperton. She was part of Chicago. She's part of Chess. She did an album, brother. She did an album which is now a recording gem. It was so advanced that people couldn't really, the radio couldn't take it in. It was too advanced. It was at a sonic different level. Total classic. The best classic musicians was on it in Chicago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Minnie Riperton, Come to My Garden. You check that out. A masterpiece by many music critics. It was released in 1970. It was creative, innovative, ahead of its time. It was totally ahead of its time. The tracks.
Wow.
Her singing. She's one of the greatest female vocalists. She has a high octane voice, almost like opera voice.
Opera voice. Yeah.
It's at that level.
Yeah.
Living,
crazy. That's crazy. But absolutely.
And so she was at the top end vocally, and of course you had Charles Stepney, who created this masterpiece, and then she was also the lead singer for a group called a Rotary Connection, which influenced Pink Floyd, Queen, and all these different bands. Total sonic influence that use psychedelic sound, classical sound, jazz riffs, and so on, and took music to a different level. It just
this is one of the authors of great music today, man. These guys, these are fundamentally foundational, and it's great to hear. Kevin, talking about how females have a major part with where we hear
females were significantly important in the preaching and the proclamation of Chicago soul.
And the thing is, it's like, I think sometimes we have a very negative going, oh, there's so many men artists, so many men doing this, and women just there shaking themselves and doing it coming across. But these women were technically taking things to another level. You know what I'm saying? No ramping.
These women were actually, some of them were songwriters, some of them were arrangers, some of them were vocal arrangers as well, and they were even today Marlena Shaw, beg your pardon, Marlena Shaw still tours. She still performs.
She's in the 70s.
Yes, she's very popular.
Yeah,
she's very popular in Europe. They love her. They love her.
Yeah,
and Japan. And
these boys, when you said good music.
These women, Etta James was still performing. When you think about At Last, which was recorded in the early 60s, right? The same At Last became a million seller.
Okay.
In later years.
Yeah.
And also with Etta James has about at least 8 or 9 certifications in UK alone.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the screen here and just looking at some.
Yes,
Wow.
she's got 8 certifications, more certifications in the UK than in the US.
And said that Marlene Shaw. They say about Marlene Shaw. A lot of her music.
But Marlene Shaw
Yeah.
only has certifications in the UK, none in the US.
And you know what? Her stuff has been heavily sampled. So it'd be interesting to find which songs get sampled, because she might not got certification in the US, but her music could have been sampled and used on certification of music. So she still gets a certification because she's inspired the hip hop generation, bro.
Yeah, because with Charles Stepney encouraged her to record the California Soul.
Okay.
Encouraged her because he said this could be a hit in the long term. And even when Charles Stepney actually died, she said that Charles Stepney said, check your royalty collections. Then she discovered that she was getting royalties, that she's earning royalties from abroad. So she's earning income off a song that she did during the late 60s under the production and supervision of Charles Stepney.
Brilliant. Crazy.
Even I Want to Be Free by Denise Williams. Free. That particular track, that was actually co-produced by Charles Stepney. Charles Stepney, brother. If you want to check, we're going to talk about him. He's probably one of the. He's actually regarded. Before he died, Barbara Streisand. He died in 1976, but Barbara Streisand, Chaka Khan, and many people wanted him, and even Michael Jackson was considering having him produce him as well.
Wow.
So what I'm trying to say to you, in terms of, I mean, all, for instance, when we talk about Chicago next week, we're going to combine it, but we talk about the final thing about the female artist that was successful recording in Chicago, like Natalie Cole. Natalie Cole started a career recording in Chicago, and she won 2 Grammy Awards in succession and Grammy Awards of the Year. We'll talk about that next week, but what I'm trying to show you, Chicago was so amazing that major publishing houses set up songwriting workshops to get the best out of Chicago. Chicago to me produced more female singers of high quality than any other city.
Wow, that's mad, bro. That's mad.
Because remember, I'm just going to say this to you. Remember, if you compare it to Detroit Motown, Detroit had million sellers by Barbara Acklin, right? By Etta James during the 60s, and also Fontella Bass with Rescue Me.
Okay, yeah.
Monster hits, brother.
Yeah.
And you could the sound of the Chicago soul sound was getting to this slick and high end quality. And also, what is interesting about Chicago, because you had several different studios with their signature sound. Like Curtin, you had Brunswick.
You
had Chess.
Yeah.
But it's high.
You had multiple platforms pushing out great music.
And so these brothers. And the thing about Chicago, they had the best classical trained musicians and jazz musicians at their availability.
So it's just called Coleman, and he just drives his.
And the engineers were top of the line. They were good. The engineer was just as good as the West Coast and East Coast. Top.
Brilliant stuff, man. Bro. But listen, bro, guys, we're gonna close out. We're gonna break it down today. Now, hopefully, God's willing, I'll be talking to Kevin later, because I should have spoken to him already. But hopefully, we'll be doing next week's show in the middle of a special Edge show, which will be extending because we're celebrating 2 years of Affinity Extra. Hopefully, Kevin will come up
next week.
Yeah, man.
I've got my thing sorted out.
Yeah.
I'm ready to I'm coming. I'm coming Friday, bro.
Friday, yep. So we're gonna have Kevin for a couple of days. We're gonna be doing some crazy historical things up here,
Yeah, man.
and a number of
Crazy
recordings
stuff.
with Kevin. So you know, guys, you know, so we're gonna have him live in the studios, catching up and doing some talks, and hopefully just relaying some of the passions that we have with some of the rest of the presenters, get to know some of the presenters, and I think that
Definitely.
I think it's gonna be absolutely fantastic. So get ready for that, guys. Yeah, because the age won't be the age properly next week. It's gonna be the 2 years. You know, crazy celebration of what we're doing here in Affinity Extra, man. You know, nothing but love, man. But we're gonna end this section off, man. Kevin, thanks again for picking up Chicago women. We salute you, amazing stuff. And don't worry, guys. I'll get this stuff out in YouTube, man. No problem with that, man. Yeah, nothing but love, Kevin. Thanks for jumping on. And I'm gonna play a bit of Anthony Brown. I'm gonna find out where this brother's from, man, because he might have a bit of that sound from up there anyway. Still, yeah, from Chicago area. I'm gonna find out where this guy's from. I'm sure he might be Chicago, you know, but I'll find out anyway. Anthony Brown.
I'm surprised if he's from that side, because a lot of these guys is from those major urban areas.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%, man. So let's get into this, guys, man. Thanks again, Kevin. Nothing but love, my brother.
Peace and love, bro.
Bless you, man.
Blessings.
When you can't turn to anyone around you, don't forget to look up.
Hey, this is your Bishop from Rock Solid. Thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. Thank you so much for clicking and subscribing, and also sending these videos to other people as well. We are so hungry to get your support. So remember, check us out on our website, and also check us out on Insta, and wherever you want to find us on Spotify. You can play us all day as well. And just make sure that you are supporting this channel, that we are developing our agenda towards music of black origin, and that is gospel music with a message. So please walk with us on this journey. Bye now.